started. We'll probably have some people trickling in, but we'll at least get the show started. So thanks for coming out on this very balmy January morning. Wow. For those who don't know me, I am Sarah Breda. I'm one of the high school PFA co-presidents, together with my partner in crime, Ann Wagner. We're very happy to have Dr. Luizzi with us here this morning to talk about the budget for next year. But before we bring him up, the PFA and the Saxe PTC have just a couple items of business that we need to take care of. And for the high school, we need to approve the minutes from our October general meeting. Unfortunately, at our December general meeting, we did not get a quorum, so we couldn't do it then. So we'll do it now. And with that, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the October general meeting? Patty, second. Ann. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. And with that, I will invite our friends from Saxe up to the podium. Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Knowles. I'm one of the PTC co-presidents at Saxe, along with Jess Hutter. And we also have some minutes to approve. Ours are from our September Welcome Back Coffee. That was our last general PTC meeting. So I would like to make a motion to approve those minutes, please. Maria, in a second. Jess, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Up next, we have the principal of the high school, Bill Egan.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to have friends from Saxe here and the high school as well. So I had really nothing to say today except to listen to Dr. Luizzi talk about the budget, which is going to be excellent. So, well, thank you for that. And I guess my issue is Bryan now. I don't know the agenda and I don't remember getting it. So, Dr. Luizzi, come on up. That won't be funny right now.
Great job.
Wow, I feel so welcome.
Thanks. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Who was here yesterday morning? A little bit of a different crowd.
It was packed.
Yes, I heard it was very packed. So yesterday morning was the meeting for the 8th grade moving up into 9th grade. And I heard it was standing room only and very packed. And hopefully, but probably a bit more stressful than this morning is meant to be for lots of people thinking about their kids going through that transition. I thank you for coming out on this morning. I was just sharing, I heard this morning on the way in, that according to Larry David, today is the last day you can say Happy New Year. With folks. So following that, Happy New Year. Hope that it's off to a great start for you. For me, it is for the most part. We haven't had any delays or cancellations yet, so that's a good thing.
I know.
Bill keeps reminding me that he would like one. I think there's nothing wrong with the delay. It's lovely. I'm also learning more and more districts around us are using a 3-hour delay.
Again. Thank you.
Doesn't it seems a little excessive, but we'll see. We didn't need one this morning, luckily. The weather turned out to be okay. So, we go on. I did get a.
We were just talking and calculating out when 5, 6 would even begin in 3 hours.
2 p.m.
Yeah, just a few hours before sundown.
2:30.
Yeah. Just sort of a quick run through. Yeah. It's crazy, 3-hour delay, but that's what people are doing. And the days still count. I mean, as long as you walk through the building. There was a time when we had to close with COVID and all that, and they were still challenging around days and getting all the days through. Some districts were literally bringing kids in, having to walk through the building, go around, get back on the buses, go home, and saying, check, the kids were in the building. We didn't do that for ourselves. Didn't need to. But I got a very cute email from some Saxe students yesterday. No, I think that maybe you helped them to write it. Saying, we haven't had a day, and they said, we haven't had snow in years, we haven't had a real snow day. We could really use a day. And he said, we just need to catch up on our work, we need a day to just relax. And of course I included there, we know you appreciate a good day off. It was very persuasive. Yeah, it was very persuasive. So I got back to them and let them know. But I let them know that then we wouldn't have this conversation and I would miss it too much. But I told them I'm not giving up on what you did. It's only 7 weeks. So we'll have our snow. And it was one of the things when I became superintendent about 10 years ago. I didn't realize, they didn't prep you for this part of the job. Part of it's an endurance test. You're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, all through the winter. You think, okay, are the roads clear? Is the buildings have power? Are the roads clear enough with the whether snow or trees down and all of that? So this morning I rolled over, looked at the phone, 4:30 in the morning, said we're good, went back to sleep. So the budget. Thank you for coming out for a brief conversation on this. If you heard or if you were watched any of the board meeting on Monday night or anything, it can be quite a long conversation because our budget is incredibly complex. I'm not going to do that to you. We'll move through pretty quickly. I'll go as quickly as I can. And then any questions or feedback or comments or any thoughts around budget or otherwise, I'm here, you're here, and we can talk about whatever. For us, so what we're doing now, we are developing or presenting our budget for 24-25, right? So 23-24 is what we're using now. This is 24-25. And the work that we do with budget actually begins in October. We start having our meetings in the buildings, our principals, and program leaders are meeting with the folks that report to them. We then meet with us, and we start talking about ideas. And that's really to see, A, is the budget that we have now meeting our needs, and B, what other ideas for initiatives and things that could be helpful for kids in each of those domains, each of those programs, should be considered for the new year. So it's sort of, we always look at both. And of course, we also look at a third thing, which is, are we doing anything that's not working? Is there anything that we can kind of roll off and stop funding or whatever? This year was particularly challenging for a couple of reasons. One being those ARP ESSER grants we've been using from COVID, they're all coming to an end, right? So we didn't get tons of money, but we had over $1 million that we were able to invest, and we did a couple of things with that. We had the Summer Academy program that we put together, which was for students in the summertime. We provided transportation, food, the instructors, and been with our teachers around the site for kids that we felt didn't necessarily have lots of other options in the summer. And it worked out very well. We had 50 kids or so, 60 kids that were participating in that. And others wanted to get involved. So that's one thing we funded. But we also funded a good number of mental health positions, between psychologists, social workers, special ed teachers, others, in order to bring in that support that we knew everybody needed. With that money coming to an end, it's no longer available, we had to make some decisions. Which positions do we continue, which ones don't we continue? And you'll see we made some of those decisions as we went through. The meetings that continue on and on and on. So we start in October, and then it's the couple of days before Thanksgiving that we sit and sequester in a room, and we spend 12, 14 hours a day, so a meeting with each program manager, kind of working through everything, and then December building it, we have our budget workshop, and then we present to the Board of Ed on Monday night, and then a couple of meetings that happen in between. Then the next official, or the formal Board of Ed meeting will adopt the budget as their own, and then it goes to the town. So we go, February is the Board of Finance. Actually, it goes to the Board of Selectmen first, the end of this month, and they look at capital and that operating, and then it goes to the Board of Finance for a month. It goes to the town council after that, and it all wraps up around the first week of April. So from October to April, we're thinking about next year's budget while implementing this year's budget and finishing up the audit on last year's budget, which is why Sean O'Keefe is home sick today. He's our Director of Finance and Operations. He agreed with the middle school students. He needed a day. So as we build our budget, when you're doing something over that long period of time, one of the things I always stress is that the budget it's not a spreadsheet. It's not simply kind of puts and takes or income outcome. It really is meant to be much more than that, because as a school district, the way that we use our resources is really reflective of who we are, what we believe, and what our highest priorities are for kids, for staff, for ourselves, for each other. So we are guided by our goals that we have. What we do early in the process is take the goals and we create budget assumptions and related priorities. The goals themselves have been the same for quite some time, but annually we change the objectives underneath each of the goals. So we've got somewhere around 30, 35 objectives that fit, that are aligned with each of these sort of larger goals. And those are the things that we talk to the board about, we present to the board about, we think about, talk about, and action plan around annually. And those evolve. They're generally pretty iterative, where the first objective might be to study something, the second is to develop and pilot something, the third, then if it's all going well, would be to implement over a course of years and what have you. Those goals then and those objectives become the budget priorities and related, budget assumptions and related priorities, which then we align with the staffing proposals and the requests that we have. One of the things we did this year, before we go into sort of the numbers for next year, I always like to do kind of a celebration of what we've done, or at least a discussion. It seems like a good thing to do, always in January, so as the new year starts, and to think about some of the ways that the previous investments have provided for returns in our schools. What's the return on investment? We know that we are asking for a significant investment in our schools and our kids. And I always feel that people, you deserve to know what's that return beyond one or two individual things. So one is this portrait of the graduate. Many of you were part of the process in developing the portrait of the graduate. Thank you for coming. In the fall, we had 4 sessions in this room. It looked very different, and we had somewhere about 100, 110, 120 people each of those 4 sessions. And one of the things I'm most proud of around it is the number of students that were there. We probably had 20, 30, 40 students at any given session. And if you were there, you know they were incredibly active participants and really engaged throughout. We had parents, community members, faculty, staff, students all working together to talk through and identify what we consider to be the most essential skills and dispositions students should have prior to graduating from our schools. And so now we've identified these 5, and now there's still a lot of work to do in order to sort of articulate what this means and think about what it looks like at the different levels. So you would say, you have to figure out what it looks like essentially for a kindergartner to be a critical thinker. What might that look like? And once you figure out how you might be able to observe that or assess that, then we think about how do we teach it? Because these skills are not, we don't just assume that they're going to be developed over time, but we want to make sure we're explicitly teaching these skills for kids prior to their graduation. So that, I think, is a big success for this year, the work that we've been doing as we've been going forward. Of course, the work that's been going on in the Dome has been, I think, transformational. I was up there the other day, brought the cabinet in, sort of a private showing. And have you ever been in a movie where the movie ends, everything, you just sort of, it's quiet, you pause, and everyone's sort of thinking about what just happened? That's what it felt like after this. It was so, the show was great, but it was so immersive. And it's that idea around a sort of a collective virtual reality type experience for our kids. So they're being transported somewhere that's only limited by imagination, and they're doing it together. And then to be able to teach through that, learn through that, and run through that, I think is really amazing. And it's a great story as a public-private partnership. You have the town covering about 50%, and then private fundraising covering the other 50%. And we did it in a year, which is stunning. How quickly everything came together. And again, some people in this room were very involved in making that happen. Thank you for doing that. And of course, I always have to mention Sarah Schubert, who was the chair of that fundraising committee and did just a fabulous job pulling it all together. We're going to have a grand opening in March, and then other opportunities that will roll out throughout the spring into the summer for people in the community, anyone to come check it out and see what it is. We hope that it'll be something that our community can rent and use over time. When we get our legs under us and get this thing in shape. Birthday parties, other things, who knows? We'll see. But that is the plan. Other things. Of course, our athletic program continues to thrive. I was surprised a little bit to see, I think, 7 years in a row now that we've won the Turkey Bowl, which is pretty stunning when you think that we play against Darien, which typically is in the top 10 of the state as well. So football won the state, they won the Turkey Bowl, but there's lots of other recognition that happens as well that's really, really important. For instance, girls cross country, Class L champions, girls tennis, double L champions, boys swim and dive, Class L champions, outdoor tracks, girls lacrosse, we're runners up in the FCAC in Class L, ranked 10th overall in the country. Lots of really amazing things that our kids have been able to do. I just like to mention. Because it really just shows that pure joy, right, that the kids have. VPA is another significant investment that we make annually. And I think it's just, again, important to note we've got kids that are participating in adjudicated competitions all over the state and region. In Rye, New York, for instance, there's where is it? It is the Rye Art Center right now is showing 2 of our students' work down in New York. We have kids that win gold key, silver key, honorable mention, and all of these things. And 2 students were selected again in Greenwich to Bruce Museum. Yep, to show their work as well as part of the upgrade. So our kids are not just creating it while they're here, but also finding opportunities to have shows, to get their work out there, to exhibit. Which is, if you're an artist, you know that's the goal. There's just a couple of things that our kids have created. The one on the left is called "Finding the Light" by Gilling, and the other one on the right is a pencil drawing called "Limbo" by Alexander Gilling. Theater, of course, is a really big deal. Our participation continues to grow. Last year, there was a picture at Saxe last year, the lower division show, where there wasn't a square inch on the stage left. And all the kids that were there and everyone that's participating, there are hundreds of kids behind the curtain that contribute to these shows every single performance. And then everyone who's up on the stage. This is Finding Nemo, of course, over at Saxe. And again, just like in art, they participate in adjudicated competitions. And our kids tend to do very, very well. The Halo Awards are statewide competition annually. That the people the judges will go and attend a performance. Nobody will know which one they'll go to or who they are. They'll attend performances in different places and then make their decisions and give them awards. Past year, we won Halos in Best Performance for a Featured Actress in Take Her, She's Mine. Best Featured Dancer in The Music Man. Best Performance by a Leading Actor in a Classical Musical for The Music Man. And then the Best Classical Musical for
goes to No
I love that picture of football team. They're just as excited. This is their stage left. This is just not even part of sports. Everyone cares so much into what they do. It just seemed really great that the Golden Globes were the other day. Another thing is our musical program, which again continues to win all kinds of awards. Our kids continue to thrive in the program. We've got students that are participating in the middle school Western Regional Band and Orchestra, elementary honors band and orchestra, middle school festival, 15 kids doing that. We had 12 high school choir students chosen to perform in Providence, Rhode Island next month. The 13 other choir students that are in the CMEA Western Regional Choir. Just the list goes on and on and on. And then in the high school concert choir performed down at Radio City to open up one of the shows for the Rockettes. So there they were down there at Radio City with the full house, singing and performing and doing all the great things everyone needs. We also, I won't show you this, although it's really, really cute. Yesterday, when I was speaking with the elementary schools, and I was told that my presentation was too middle school, high school oriented. So I don't want to make this too elementary oriented, so I'll skip over this one. But it's a cute little video about that our students over at South Main to welcome our tri-state consortium visitors last spring when they came to give us some feedback around some of our programs. You may have seen it, it's really great. But the point is that not only in all the sort of the traditional arts, when we look at music and art, theater, but also video is sort of coming into its own as a whole nother genre of creation and development and work for our kids. And so we've had the high school, the news program for quite some time, NCTV. Over the last couple of years, we've expanded into Saxe, and we have the Saxe TV, the Saxe News program, and then even the elementaries are doing it. So annually, this Area 9 Cable Council has an award ceremony, or an awards program. And they have different levels of awards. The highest award is called the Rapinki Award, which is named after a teacher who retired after years and years of doing this kind of work. Long and short of it is our kids in the elementary level, middle school level, and the high school level won first place in that sort of top honor of the Area 9 Cable Awards. Really, really great stuff. And having watched the videos, the ones that won, it's just stunning how talented the kids are. And when I talk about the dome and how powerful and immersive that experience is, another element to that, something else we're very excited about, is that kids can create content that is projected on them. So we're buying shows and we're putting those up there, we're figuring out how to use it in our curriculum, but our video teachers like Jen Sinsky and others, Roman and others, are also thinking about how can we teach kids to create content that then is shown to the class up in the same way on that dome, in the same theater that we have. So really cool, great opportunities. As you know, our catalog of co-curricular activities is very extensive. And then we get into, and one of the things I really like is that if kids have ideas, they come to teachers and ask them if they want to advise, and they do it. Right? So whether it's beekeeping or Quidditch or whatever it might be, it's about sort of helping those kids to pursue areas of curiosity that they have. And our teachers are just amazing partners. They jump right into it. And sometimes they learn along with the kids. A few years ago, as kids wanted to learn how to keep bees, they talked to their teacher about it, and so he didn't know how to do it. So they learned together, and as far as I know, they're still keeping bees. Pretty neat. So another thing, of course, it's all of the student experience that we think about when we build the budget and consider. And certainly, our assessment results are important, considering all that too. These are last year's assessment results at the elementary level and middle school for 3 through 8. So this is grades 3 through 8, all in sort of what those assessment results are. It puts us at the top of that. We call it DIRG. We still use that acronym, but it's Demographic Reference Group. And essentially, you see the districts out of that. It's all the districts right in your region. There's 7 of us in total. You can break this down a little further, and you can see the performance around the English language arts. And we're again at the top in most of those areas as we go across. Again, real quickly, this is all available to you. The same with mathematics. In the region, we score at the top, and then across the grades, we tend to be adding in the top. We are adding in the top at every one of the grades. And since she's here, I'm going to say it. Dr. Krenti, her role as a deputy superintendent with curriculum instruction, focuses on this day in, day out, and the results show the results of her amazing work with the staff, with the curriculum coordinators, with all of what we do across the district. Results speak for themselves. Recently, the next generation science standards have come in, and we have assessments around that too. And again, our students continue to perform very well there. And then up at the high school, we get to our school day SAT results as we look at that. And our students perform well. The SAT's been tricky over the last couple of years, and certainly the pandemic impacted standardized assessments and in lots of different ways. And now actually there's been some articles about bringing the SAT back and starting to make it mandatory once again for college applications. Excuse me. I have 2 daughters. One's a junior right now at Syracuse. The other graduated back in May. And so I have sort of a pre and a during example. So when Josie applied to school, she's my older daughter, and went off to school, it was before the pandemic hit. And so I had that whole experience. And then I had Mia's experience, which was directly impacted by the pandemic and all that. And so yeah, it had a significant impact on the experience for kids and the uncertainty and how unsettled everything was. And now, people are starting to take a step back and reevaluate maybe some of the decisions that were made during the pandemic to make sure that they're the right ones for kids as we go forward. So I think that's all good news. Another thing, this chart. I really like this chart, but you can look at it I could look at it for a very long time. There's lots of data here, and I'm going quickly, I know. But it speaks to one of the most significant efforts that we've had in the schools, driven by our goals for a long time, which is to increase the opportunities for kids to take the highest level coursework. And so back in 2010, what this tells you, in 2010, our total enrollment at the high school was 1,282 kids. This year, it's 1,294. So we've gone up 12 kids in that whole period of time since 2010. The green line is the percentage of tests, AP tests, where students score a 3 or better. Okay, so and that line is very consistent. You see it started at 92%. This past year it was 93.7%. So we've consistently scored, and that 3 or better is important on an AP because then it's considered that you've succeeded in a college level course it's the way sort of AP is designed. Of course, so the blue line is the number of student test takers, individual students. And so back in 2010, we had 275 students who took an AP test. This past year, with 12 more students, we had over 500 kids take one or more AP tests, right? So we've increased that number significantly, the number of individual kids who took it. And then when we look at the number of tests taken, we go from 497 up to over 1,200. Now, this has happened very intentionally as we have worked to expand the catalog of opportunities for kids in the APs. Back in 2010, we had the traditional AP classes. We had AP US, AP Bio, AP Cal, but not much else. And so we really intentionally worked to broaden those offerings so that every student can find an area that they're interested in, an area of competency for them, and try a college level course. So we brought in courses like AP Psychology, AP Micro and Macroeconomics. We've done some things in the visual performing arts to have AP classes when students are ready to do that, AP Music, AP Music Tech, AP Computer Science. We've done things both in the humanities and in the sciences to try to broaden this so that every student can try, hope, at least one college level course prior to graduation. And we've also done, and this is not on the chart here, but we've offered other courses or developed other courses that are aligned with UConn for their early college experience program, some with the University of Bridgeport in their engineering program and other things. So we've also looked at other ways to provide college level opportunities for kids and then to support them as they're doing it. Because what we want to make sure is that when kids leave here, they leave here with the confidence that they can manage the work that's ahead. And we meet annually with our recent graduates. We just met with them a couple of weeks ago prior to the holidays. And to a person, we sat for about an hour with a dozen or so. They all said they felt very well prepared going off to school and completing their first semester. And they actually, it's always interesting to hear them say, but my roommate wasn't nearly as prepared as I was. Or, some of my friends struggled with this or that. We don't want them to say that high school is a lot harder than college, but it's okay for them to say that they worked at least as hard here as they are there. And there's like a sweet spot there.
Interesting too, Brian, not to focus on it even more, but you could drill down even more because freshmen can't take an AP class. Right. So that's 330 kids off the top right there. So you're really looking at that 1294 number is 9 something. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I told Bill I really like this chart. I stole this from him. We used it as the president. So, I think I'm not a big fan of sort of ranking systems. I think education is much more complex than you can break down into a number, and the student experience means so much more than that. Well, when you do well, you talk about it. So these are the niche rankings. Sometimes you'll see rankings like U.S. News and World Reports or some others, and they'll tell you they use these 7 indicators to do the ranking. What they actually do is they use 6 of them to determine whether or not you qualify to be ranked, and then they use 1 to actually do the ranking. Niche does it differently, which is what I like about them. They do try to be more holistic. They look at the website, they look at comments, they look at kids comment or people rated on 1 through 5 stars or those kinds of things. They look at a variety of different data. There's two graduates of Carnegie Mellon who put this together years ago, trying to create something to help people make good decisions about what community they want to live in. And so it actually wasn't about schools when they first created it. It was more about like real estate markets, things like that. And then they branched into schools. But of note, certainly districts with the best teachers in America, the best places to teach in America. I put top 1%, it's really top 0.5%. It's really pretty. When you're ranked 31st out of almost 11,500 districts, you're doing some things right. Now, of course, it's a budget conversation, so we're just talking a little bit about money. And I think this is important because it shows kind of the value that we're getting for the investment that we're asking. The net current expenditures per pupil, it's NCEP. It's a ranking that's calculated annually based on the educational filings that occur at the end of each fiscal year. It's EFS, Education Financial System. And essentially, it's all normalized across every district so that we're reporting the same things. So these are accurate numbers, and they have to be because the state uses them in order to determine amounts of reimbursement for high-cost special education students. So 4.5 times this per pupil makes us eligible to receive some money back for those costs. So there's a lot on the line in getting these numbers right. So it's a pretty accurate measure to use. When you look at it, it shows that across the 166 districts in Connecticut, New Canaan spends there's 43 districts that spend more per pupil, which I think is a point of pride. If you look at it, Greenwich at 19, if we spent the same in New Canaan per pupil that Greenwich spends per pupil, that would be an additional $15.3 million in this year's budget. It's all just for our kids. $15.3 million. I know. You look skeptical.
Just leaning in on your numbers.
Okay, good, you do it. Because what you don't see in this is the average daily membership. We do the enrollment of kids. We do there's lots of other numbers that go to. If you were Darien down the road, it would be an additional $4.3 million in this year's budget. And this has been a consistent trend that we've been working on. Because really what happens is, you know, as a school district, decisions we make today impact tomorrow, they impact next month, next year, 5 years from now. So we've been working really hard for quite some time in making good decisions around the operational costs here. Because we know that we get the results we get because we focus so much on what happens in the classroom with our kids. And we want to protect that by doing everything we can to manage the operational costs. So and then ANGLIC on the end, just for what it's worth, is the adjusted equalized net grand list per capita. It's essentially the community wealth ranking. So Greenwich is highest because their grand list is so high, so they are divided out, and then Darien and then us. So, and I'm happy to, any former math teachers are welcome to see the spreadsheet. How do we do it? I mean, there's lots and lots of ways. We've talked in years past about how we've insourced certain things. So we've been developing programs in-house for a while now. Whether it's our launch program for students that are 18 to 22 who still need services, or our downtown campus that we've created that for our students, alternative school for students who really have a hard time sitting here. We've had our literacy academy that we began a couple of years ago that's growing. So we really work hard to build those programs in-house so that we don't have to outsource that work. We believe our kids should be educated in their community, with their peers, with their neighbors. We want them to be here, and so we develop these programs in order to keep them so that they can thrive here in New Canaan. And so that, over time, it takes time to get those programs up and running, but over time it helps to also manage some of these long-term costs. Another thing we're doing that I'm really proud of is we've had a long-term focus on environmentally friendly solutions that are also budget friendly. And so we've done things like the switch over to natural gas at 405 buildings. That burns cleaner, less exhaust, less waste, and it saves us a little bit of money, and it saves on just the heating the building. And in the long term, it saves us money because the boilers burn cleaner, need less maintenance, they'll last longer. It has all of those virtuous kind of effects downstream. The one building we couldn't get natural gas to out of the west, we're now running propane. So we put a big propane tank, we buried it there, and now we're running propane over west. Solar, we've done a lot with solar. There's a lot more to do. We have fully completed the projects at the 3 elementary schools. Saxe High School, we're somewhere working there. We got a lot done at the high school last year. But just with the 3 elementary buildings, we generated over 1.2 million kilowatts last year in our solar, which is enough to power over 110 homes for a year. So just those 3 schools alone, the panels that we have there, which is great for the environment, great for the grid. We're pumping that back into the grid. It also saves us money because we actually lease our roofs to the companies that are doing generation. And they get to use our tax credits, so they save money that way. And we are only paying 4.5 to 6.5 cents per kilowatt. So we save money instead of paying like most of our peer group and others are paying somewhere, teens, 14, 16 cents. We're paying 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 cents on energy that we're buying from the companies that are generating it from our roof. So things like that are probably too wonky, but I think interesting because it's how we save money that then turns into the results that we're doing. Other little things, we have a little power plant over at Saxe that we're testing out. CHP, it's called, combined heat and power. It burns natural gas to generate electricity that then again comes back in. And it also heats water that gets put into the building that can be used to heat other things. So we anticipate that's going to save us some. We're going to watch it and trend it for a little while. And then if it works out well, we'll talk about the high school. And then the other that I just like to always mention is the lighting retrofit. We went to LED lighting, which if you do it in your house, you might save a couple of bucks a year. When you do it when you have 1 million square feet, you save about $250,000 a year. So it's those little and big things that all come out. So I'll go here real quick. We looked at, I took the 2019 budget and was thinking about how best to sort of talk about the other requests as we think about where we've been. We trended it based on inflation. And this isn't a pure science because our budget runs July 1 to June 30th and inflation numbers run annually and all that. But we trended starting with the 2019 budget and went based on the Department of Labor's inflation numbers and worked at, it's 2.3% in 19, 1.4% in 2020. Anyway, the red line, this red orange line, is if we took our 2019 budget and just trended it with inflation and did nothing else. The one underneath it is our actual spending. And I did assume a 3% for 2024 and 2025, and hopefully it's a little bit lower than that because that's the target for the top line. But if you just look at 2019 to 2023, what our actual budget was versus inflation, $17 million below inflation. All that matters, right? So, school board budgets, school district budgets are broken up into 8 objects. Over 82% of it is salaries and benefits. That's really what drives our budget. If you throw in that purchase services, which is transportation at about $4.8 million, and out-of-district placements for special education, that's another significant chunk. And then the other is property services, which is about $1 million for our utilities. And thanks to the things I was talking about with solar and all that stuff, our utilities are actually trending down. You could also look at it by cost center instead of object. So what's most important here is to look at Saxe and the high school and see they're pretty equal in spending, which makes sense because they're large buildings and they have 4 grades and the way that we staff you all. We are thinking about our enrollment for next year and years ahead. We are projected to have a bump in enrollment in 26-27 in kindergarten. That will then kind of set a new norm for us. We've got to figure out, is that a spike or is it a new plateau that we're going to grow from? We're trying to figure that out. As you look backwards, you see there's a lot of consistency there. At the high school, the middle school to some degree, we're seeing some trending down at the high school over the next couple of years because, again, it takes, when you look at the elementary, it ripples through to the high school. Saxe had been trending down a little bit. Now we're starting to see it trending back up, which is why we are asking for a couple of additional teachers in 5th grade over at Saxe. You see it along the bottom. Because that grade level is going from 294 or so kids this year up to 352 kids next year. So we need 2 additional teachers. And if we look across the elementaries, you see kind of back and forth a little bit. But again, you see pretty good consistency. We generally have 16 teachers per grade as you look across. And then at the bottom are those average class sizes. So investments we're looking to make in budget. Most, I think, appropriate or notably here for Saxe and high school. It's those staff over Saxe, which is really 2.4. Because when you add sections, you have to add some specials too. You have to put that in there. At the high school, we're looking at a couple of things. One is increasing our business department for financial literacy. It's a new legislation that passed. All students have to have 0.5 credit in financial literacy prior to graduation, starting with this year's freshman class. So that's something we have to be responsive to. It's nice of them to give us 2 months to figure it out. The other thing is world language. As you know, we call it a world language program, but there's really a Spanish department, a French department, a Latin department, and a Mandarin department, because a teacher certified in Spanish can't teach Mandarin unless they're certified in English, right? So it's a challenging department. The more languages you have, the more complex and challenging it is. This 0.4 will help us to kind of distribute across the languages based on what students want, what they want to take. what students are interested in. We also now have some teachers who are doing overages, we call them, like a 1.2 or things like that. So we're looking to try to normalize that around 1. And then we're also looking at an assistant athletic director, a 0.4. As you can imagine, the demands on an athletic director over the last few years, thumbs up to that. Right? They've been increasing so much, and the expectations are very high. The work, we've got well over 50 coaches. Right now, Jay Egan, who's, I think he's the best in the state for sure. He's been here quite some time, knows his stuff. He's only the 4th athletic director who came in the last 50, 60 years. We have a long tradition of consistency there, which is, I think, a big part of why our programs are as successful as they are. We need some help. The expectations are high, the demands are high, the time constraints are really high. So we try to get to every event, every game, and an assistant athletic director will help us do that. Probably it should be a 1.0, but we'll start here and see, and sort of do proof of concept, which is how we tend to do this. And then we have a new person in the library this year that we were able to bring in because of some leave and some other things and opportunities. And he has really shown us some things that are possible that we want to continue doing that are really, really great for kids. Specifically, one of the things is putting the system in place, a badging system, where kids can earn badges that then give them privileges to use equipment or to do certain things that we want them to have. So, for instance, down there in the library, we have a podcast studio, a green screen, some other things. And we want to make sure our kids know how to use the equipment before they start signing out for those spaces. So by working through these programs, they can earn their badges, and then once they have it, they can sign up to reserve these spaces and use the equipment, and we can be confident that they have the skills they need to do that. So that's just one little piece. There's lots of other pieces and things that he's doing, but that's one thing that we don't want to lose that. Right? We need somebody with that kind of focus. So that's in here too as a teaching assistant. And then continue doing the work with the Literacy Academy and others. We are deferring a couple of things that we've talked about. We did talk early about adding some counselors at the high school. We made a decision not to do that right now. I think that there's still a lot shaking out around the college application process and other things, and our staff right now is comfortable where they are. We also think that another librarian in Saxe is probably warranted, given the upper and lower division, the times and the expectations and the needs that are over there. But again, we deferred that this 1 year, and we'll look at that again next year. And the Saxe team leaders for grades 6 through 8, where we have 4 teams of 4 over there, and a little more centralized coordination can be helpful. But we had to make, as I mentioned, hard decisions about what continues and what doesn't, because then we get the health care. But ultimately, the budget that we presented to the board on Monday night as the superintendent's budget is a 6.5% year-to-year change. And that's driven by salaries, driven by, like I mentioned, those grants coming to an end and having to figure out what to pick up there. A couple of those new initiatives, and then of course healthcare. And we are self-insured, so that means we run our own healthcare system, and it's done generally very well. We've taken lots of steps to trend down the cost of those. But the way, when you're self-funded, you'll have some good years and some not so good years, and you want the good years to outweigh the bad years, and you come out ahead in the long run. What we did here, again, we started with 2019, and just trended it at the blue line is a 9%, the red line is a 6%, and then the green line is our actuals. And these are the actual costs for the claims. It doesn't include, there's other pieces, stop loss reimbursement and everything. So the year you see the spike, we got over $3 million back from our reinsurer because it was driven by a couple of large claims. But I guess the point on this is that by being self-insured and managing as closely as we do, we're well below market trend. But we also have to recognize that some years we're going to have to spend more than others because this is a commitment we make to all of our folks. We do it in partnership with them. So it's about as quick as I could ever do it. You've been really, really kind and really, really patient. I'm more than happy to talk about anything specifically. The long and short of it is the superintendent's budget will stay that way until the Board of Ed votes to adopt as their own, and then it becomes the Board of Education budget. We really worked hard to balance where, first, it's what do we need? Second, what do we think are the best investments around sort of those highest leverage areas? And then what can we defer and can we wait to do a little bit later? Feel very strong that the Literacy Academy is an investment in our youngest kids that will help us, in the long term. The financial literacy piece, the teachers in 5th grade, like those are really, there are no options around that. We're not going to have 5th grade classes at 28 per kid. So those are investments we need to make. And then we look at like the Week 4 athletic director and things like that. Those are things you really, I think it'd be unwise not to invest in because of the needs and what we're seeing. So we work very hard to get it to this place, but we also know that 6.5 is kind of a high number. But when we look around the region, we see everything from a 8.9 is one of our neighboring districts. Some others are also in the mid-6s, one's in the 7, one's in the high 5s. So we're all sort of facing this challenge. Part of it, in truth, I think, is a renorming after the pandemic and not spending all that money. So if you remember, there was back in 2020 when we had to close all that, there was about $4 million that we didn't spend and that wound up going back. And then in 2020, 2021, athletics were abbreviated and everything else, so we didn't have, again, the same spend that we typically did. Our plays, we cut those way back. So last year was a little bit more normal. This year should be entirely back to the way it was pre-pandemic, we think. So there's a little bit of rebalancing that's going on. Otherwise, every district in the state, in the region, wouldn't be having the same challenge around sort of where that number's coming in. Sort of how. But as I said before, I'm happy to talk about this or anything. But really say thank you for coming out. And Happy New Year. Any questions, any thoughts, any feedback? Was it too elementary, folks?
Perfect. Wonderful shows.
What, you like the chart? So can I, true confession, so this chart was brought to you by ChatGPT. I did. I put the data, it said, draw me a chart, and I gave it all the data, and it drew me a chart. And I liked it, so I used it. Yeah. Some of the others were Excel, but I figured I would try some. I actually asked it lots of questions that I couldn't answer. I'll take care of those.
I have one quick question. Who manages the benefit and the self-insured? Is that managed internally by the Human Resources Department?
Sure. So it is, well, our program manager is Cigna. So we use the Cigna catalog of providers and use all of that. We have a consultant that helps us as we work through that. But ultimately, we do manage. We look at the claims, we look at the budget, we look at what's called the Internal Services Fund, and all of that is done in-house. Yep. So Cigna's our program provider, administrator. But yeah, the financials of it and all of that. And we also sort of make the decisions around the risk, right? Because insurance is all about risk. So we have our pool, but then we have individual stop loss. So if somebody goes over $300,000, we get reimbursed for all of that. So any one person can go up to $300,000. And then we have an aggregate. So if it goes over 120% of projected, then that's covered. That we've never hit the aggregate, but we have hit the individual. Yeah. I'll stop there. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming out. It was especially if you were here yesterday. I know it was much more interesting and emotional probably, but this is, I think it's really just important for each of you, for people, to understand what we're investing in. We're asking for $109 million. And some people will say it's an expense. I think it's an investment. And so that's why really the focus on what are we getting? So identifying what those key performance indicators are. And for me, it's all about the student experience. And then sharing some information about what our kids' lives are when they're here. I'll tell you, I've been here for a little while now, and I've never seen schools that have the culture, the professional culture, the student culture, the commitment and engagement that our kids have here. It's amazing. Matter of fact, Dr. Jill was just sharing with me yesterday. She went in to see a teacher, and that teacher was a little bit late because of a meeting that she was in. And the kids, it was in the high school, kids were in the room, sitting there, doing their work, with no adult in the room. And then she got a call, or she caught up with a teacher, and she said, I'm going to be in this meeting a little bit longer. And the kid said, can I get a pass to the library so I can go do my work? Like they weren't, I don't know about you, I don't know that I would have reacted that way as a high school student without my teacher in the room, but that's what I'm and having filled in and gone through, and I'm down here as a principal, the kids after the end of class, they'll say thank you to their teachers. They say thank you on the way out the door. And that's a credit to the kids, the teachers, and teachers. Thank you.